be seated. Thank you very much. Today is a day 4 years ago, on 9th of August 2022, Kenyans went to the polls and elected William Ruto and I to lead this country. And at the request of the people of Kenya, they have asked me to give an accountability statement and performance of audit of William Ruto 4 years into the presidency, and that is what I intend to do. There has been attempts by the National Intelligence Service, by William Ruto's handlers, to get to know the contents of my address before I do it, and they have been unsuccessful. And I did the statement myself, and Mama Boys typed it for me. So, William Ruto and your people, unless you can get through to Mama Boys, you cannot get to know the content of what I need to say. But what I'll say is informed by input from leaders, from the people of Kenya, and you'll hear it for the first time. Fellow Kenyans, 4 years ago, the people of Kenya made a defining choice. On 9th August 2022, millions of Kenyans voted for a new administration on the strength of a bold vision known as a plan, formally presented as the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, better, for 2022 to 2027. In the spirit of Article 1 of the Constitution of Kenya, the plan was a product of 47 economic charters, input from religious forums, professional associations, and other stakeholders. The plan embodied the covenant between Kenya Kwanza and the people of Kenya collectively. It was a vision that promised to transform our economy, uplift ordinary Kenyans, and restore hope to our nation. 4 years later, today, Mr. William Ruto has betrayed the trust bestowed on him by the people of Kenya, betrayed the fruits and the foundation of our nation that have been built by previous administrations under the various development blueprints such as Vision 2030. He has eroded the democratic gains of multipartyism and swallowed political parties and the then opposition. As he once wondered as deputy president, who is government and who is opposition? He then said it was a mongrel of a government. Today, we have a mongrel of a government. Today, as I issue an accountability statement and performance audit of Mr. William Ruto's administration in the last 4 years, it is not about personalities. It is about evaluating promises with performance, commitments with the delivery, and expectations with outcomes. Patriotic Kenyans, our Constitution recognizes the presidency as an embodiment of national unity, deriving its authority and legitimacy directly from the sovereign power of the people. For this reason, the performance of any administration must always be assessed with honesty, fairness, and fidelity to the facts. Mr. William Ruto premised his manifesto with these words, and I quote, "On August 9, 2022, you'll be called to choose between two roads. One leads to constitutional democracy, institutionalized politics, and opening the doors of opportunity to the many. The other takes us back to the imperial presidency, deeper into personalization of power, and the inevitable and predictable end of economic apartheid that we see so often around the world, The power is in your hands, close quotes. When he was presenting this choice, little did we know that he was presenting the latter. Today, we have an imperial presidency, economic apartheid, and power under a ruthless dictator. Fellow Kenyans, Mr. William Ruto committed himself to building a secure, just, and democratic Kenya founded on the Constitution and the rule of law. He promised to professionalize the National Police Service, safeguard human rights, protect every Kenyan regardless of political affiliation, strengthen the administration of justice, and ensure the security agencies remained accountable to the Constitution. He further pledged to guarantee every Kenyan the freedoms enshrined in Chapter 4 of the Constitution of Kenya. On this commitment, Mr. William Ruto has done a complete 360-degree about turn on his covenant, and I'll proceed to summarize a schedule of injustices against Kenyans and foreigners. The Republic of Kenya is in a state of lawlessness and anarchy. In 4 years, William Ruto has achieved the unimaginable. There is total breakdown of law and order. Goons have taken over the legal mandate and the role of the National Police Service. The CS for Interior, the PS for Internal Security, who are duty-bound to secure Kenyans and their property, are the key planners and financiers of goons in the country. The rule of law has been suspended in the country. The DCI Director, Mohamed Amin, has been deployed by William Ruto to provide cover-up of extrajudicial killings and abductions in the country. I've just been told that the 2 police officers who were mentioned in the death of Dr. Victoria Mutiso, they were arrested and released on orders of Kipchumba Murkomen. They were never taken to any police station. I've just now, on my way here, been informed that the DCI has facilitated their relocation to our neighboring country, Uganda. Goons have become part of the command structure, rank and file of the National Police Service. It is now common to see goons being escorted by the police to carry out criminal acts against Kenyans. This was evident in the PCA Mweki attack, Kariobangi PCA attack, and ACK Witima Church attack. In fact, Mr. William Ruto carries out his development tours in Nairobi, accompanied by goons. Case in point, it has been witnessed repeatedly. The plan promised that no Kenyan will be evicted without following the due process of law and, where applicable, compensation. Unfortunately, over the last 4 years, Kenyans have not been spared the wrath of Mr. William Ruto's brutal regime and have been violently evicted from their homes and business premises. Mr. William Ruto has established an assassination network in Kenya to deal with political dissent and to assist Kenyans having an issue with one another to eliminate those they don't agree with. For example, in the 2024, during the Gen Z and Saba Saba protests, the government told us that guns were stolen from Kikuyu police station. The truth of the matter is that no guns were stolen. They never left the police station. Those guns were removed from the police records to be available to goons and rogue police officers to carry out illegal attacks and assassination of Kenyans. Look at the classic example of Dr. Victoria Mutiso, who was assassinated on 19th July 2026, and lawyer Matthew Chalo Bob on 9th September 2025 by senior police officers in a feud related to personal property. This heinous murder was planned and executed by police officers from Kikuyu police station. This police station, as I've said, is a crime scene and an assassination empire. This is a situation in 4 years William Ruto has achieved to put up an assassination team available for hire by Kenyans who may want to eliminate other Kenyans. Rachel Wandeto was doused with petrol on the allegation of having a tattoo on her breast. CS Kipchumba Murkomen IG Douglas Kaja visited her in hospital. William Ruto vowed that the killers would be arrested. They said her death was motivated by certain political leaders. The scheme was planned and orchestrated by CS Murkomen and a nominated senator. Despite William Ruto having instructed that the killers be arrested, 3 months down the line, nobody has been arrested. Nobody will be arrested because she was killed by the police. The Reverend Dumia Kariuki of PCA Nakuru, a vocal church leader, was killed by Nairobi Sierra, a squad formed by Kipchumba Murkomen to intimidate the PCA church to agree to sell their properties in Mombasa, Nairobi, Kajiado to William Ruto. The U.S. State Department, Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights and Labor, the Kenya National Commission of Human Rights, and the Independent Medical Legal Unit have documented over 700 cumulative cases of extrajudicial killings and forced disappearances across Kenya since late 2022 when William Ruto came to power. And with, of course, notable surge tied to the 2024 Gen Z protests, where 60 young boys and girls were killed. Mr. William Ruto, it is also important to note that alcohol and drug substance abuse is on a record high in the country. And the climax was when William Ruto appointed 2 known drug barons into his cabinet. William Ruto has therefore deliberately allowed the menace to grow in sections of the country that are not politically aligned to him. While serving as the country's deputy president, I ensured and chaired a multi-agency stakeholder meetings across country to exhaustively examine the root causes, extent, and impact of this growing disaster, with the aim of offering solutions. The initiatives were aimed at informing major government policy, measures, and prescribing interventions and actions to address alcohol and drug demand reduction, supply suppression, and harm reduction. Under my leadership then, I strengthened the intergovernment collaboration and coordination in fighting alcohol, drugs, and substance abuse. I proposed several amendments of national and legal and county legal provisions on alcohol and drug control, coordinated and multidisciplinary licensing regime of alcoholic outlets where all stakeholders were involved, and proposed the establishment of county treatment and rehabilitation centers. I held high-level engagement sessions with the judiciary to fast-track alcohol, drug, substance abuse matters before then. William Ruto's 4 years have achieved unwarranted, excessive availability of drugs to our young people, killing them and leaving others as zombies. I'm confident that on August 10, 2027, we will revisit this program and eradicate this vice in totality. The following are some of Kenyans who have been abducted and disappeared recently. Mark Million Carey, he was abducted in Nairobi. Michael Olo, abducted in Nairobi. Families wept in the Milimani High Court demanding his release. His last location was along Kagudo Road. Evans Omondi, abducted alongside Olo and Carey. Abdulaziz Duba Molu, alias Zizo, abducted in Kiamaiko on June 23, 2026 by armed individuals in civilian clothing and police uniforms. Davis Lichuma, a rights activist seized by the masked operatives outside Parliament, later traced to a hospital heavily battered. Omwancha Clifford Evans, listed among the recent abductees by local human rights groups. Manyura Morisori Douglas, still missing following a wave of clandestine security enforcement operations. Jimmy Mtava Mwanzi, abducted in Mlolongo, not seen to date. He was abducted at the instructions of DIG Langat. Dennis Chege, an activist who was said to be involved in the Gen Z protests, vanished and remains completely unaccounted for to date. Brian Stigo, a Nakuru fisherman, who mysteriously went missing in 2022 under similar contested operations at Lake Nakuru National Park. The plan promised Kenyans that the National Coroner Service Act of 2017 will be amended to establish the Coroner General's Office. The objective and aim of this amendment was to remove the burden of investigating suspicious and police action deaths from regular police channels and DCI. Further, the amendment of the Act was aimed at removing potential conflict of interest and ensuring absolute transparency in handling and explaining deaths and forced disappearances or fatalities resulting from the law enforcement operations. 4 years later, this promise has not been fulfilled. National Coroner Service Amendment Bill 2026 was officially published in the Kenya Gazette on April 16, 2026, and received by the Directorate of Legal Services in July 2026. It is currently at the introduction and pre-reading stage in the National Assembly, awaiting formal first reading and committal to the relevant departmental committee. Mr. William Ruto has also facilitated acts of transnational repression against foreigners in Kenya. More specifically, on July 24, 2024, 36 Ugandans, members of a Ugandan opposition political party, as part of a joint Kenya-Ugandan Security Agency operation, and were forcibly returned to Uganda. On October 18, 2024, 7 Turkish asylum seekers were abducted in Nairobi by masked men. Kenya later confirmed it forcibly deported 4 of them to Turkey in a joint security operation, citing bilateral ties, drawing severe condemnation from the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees and Human Rights. On November 16, 2024, Kizza Besigye, leader of another Ugandan opposition party, was kidnapped by Ugandan agents while visiting Nairobi. Kenya government officials claimed they were unaware of the abduction, but the Ugandan authorities maintained it was a coordinated action between the two governments. Tanzania journalist and human rights activist Maria Sarangi was on Sunday, 12 January 2025, almost abducted here in Nairobi. Prominent Zimbabwean constitutional lawyer and human rights defender Brian Kagoro was detained and deported from Kenya on February 22, 2026. Intercepted by immigration and national intelligence officers at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport in Nairobi, he was held for over 10 hours and subsequently put on a flight back to Johannesburg, South Africa. In March 2026, 2 officials from the China Civil Engineering Construction Corporation were deported from Kenya amid a high-stakes dispute that arose in Kenya shillings 30 billion Kenya Railway city tender. Upon seeking a statutory review of the procurement process, William Ruto and Kipchumba Murkomen deported the complainants' local agents, clearing the way for their preferred entity, China Road and Bridge Corporation, CRBC, a company that has bagged procurement tenders worth 1.2 Kenya trillion since 2022 when William Ruto came to power. China Road and Bridge Corporation is the international conduit for corrupt proceeds in Kenya under the personal and direct supervision of William Ruto. I must say Kenyans are not safe, our children are not safe, investors are not safe, tourists are not safe, no foreigner is safe. And I must say, foreigners, investors, tourists, your own security starts with you. I ask the members of our development partners and foreign embassies accredited to Kenya to ensure that their staff and citizens are safe within the boundaries of Kenya. On protecting the liberties enshrined in our Constitution, William Ruto has breached the freedom of expression in Article 33 and the freedom of media in Article 34, Constitution of Kenya 2010. On 26 June 2026, 4 police officers from the dreaded Killer Squad, armed with AK-47 assault rifles, attempted to abduct the Standard Group Nakuru-based associate editor, Mr. Alex Kiprotich. This attack is a defiance to truth and total on the freedom of media, as stipulated in Article 34 and 35 of our Constitution. In the last 4 years, several media houses, including the Nation Media Group, the Standard Media Group, MediaMax Network, and several journalists were subjected to online campaign and disinformation campaign by the government of William Ruto. Reports show that 24 cases of violence towards journalists were recorded during the 2024 Gen Z protests. The Kenya Kwanza Covenant pledged to root out corruption, guarantee financial autonomy for key oversight bodies, and enforce Chapter 6 of the Constitution of Kenya on leadership and integrity. Mr. William Ruto has broken this covenant to the people of Kenya and instead orchestrated outright plundering of the country's resources for his personal benefit and enrichment. On 31st December 2024, Mr. William Ruto was ranked as the second most corrupt president in the world by the Organization of Sudan's Paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF. Rice farmers in Ahero, West Kano, Bunyala, Bura, and Mwea have also faced significant challenges. Although rice was identified as a strategic import substitution crop, import volumes approaching 1 million metric tons annually have depressed local paddy prices, leaving many farmers with unsold stock. Just recently, on 6 July 2026, William Ruto authorized the gazettement of duty-free importation of 490,000 metric tons of grade 1 milled white rice before 30th November, June 26. It estimates that this represents a missed economic opportunity exceeding 100 billion Kenya shillings if domestic production had been given priority before this duty-free window was open. Even though state sugar mills have been leased to private sector players associated with William Ruto, their principal business model is to import sugar instead of purchasing locally grown sugar from farmers. This has left 320,000 small-scale sugarcane farmers now facing an uncertain future. The targeted turning of 2 million poor farmers from food deficit to surplus producers using input finance and agricultural extension support. To date, show me one farmer in Kenya who can come forward as a testimonial. Instead, this farmer has nothing. In fact, small-scale farmers in Mwea and Ahero are currently in court trying to salvage their crop after government gazetted the importation of 490,000 metric tons of rice for importation. Tea farmers are crying. A 0.8% levy has been introduced, and this year's bonus will reduce from 45 Kenya shillings per kilo. Sugarcane farmers in Western Nyanza and Kisii, the government is unable to pay 270 million owed to them. Cane per ton has reduced from 6,500 to 5,000. Dairy farmers who have supplied milk to new KCC have not been paid for 6 months. It is further alarming that the National Agricultural Value Chain Development Program allocation dropped by 54% to 54% from 10.2 billion Kenya shillings in 2025-2026 financial year to 4.7 billion Kenya shillings in 2026-2027 financial year. This is a direct assault on the agricultural value chain in Kenya. As Deputy President, I initiated progressive reforms in the agricultural sector that increase returns for tea, coffee, dairy, and other cash crops. Through my efforts, we negotiated an 8 billion debt waiver for coffee farmers that was suspended as soon as I left office. More can and more will be done once we form government on August 10 next year. Patriotic Kenyans, William Ruto pledged affordable credit and working capital through an accommodative financial ecosystem, removing structural exploitation and removing barriers to unsecured agricultural credit. To date, the Agricultural Finance Corporation is underfunded. It has a demand of 15 billion Kenya shillings per year from farmers, but the promise to fund it by 10 billion Kenya shillings per year was a hoax. Instead, those who borrowed are being auctioned. Dear Kenyans, William Ruto pledged to revive collapsed cooperative factories and processing plants such as sugar and dairy sectors and guaranteed minimum returns for farm products. Show me any revived sugar factory. Instead, they have been sold, and they have been bought by Ruto and cronies. Where is the cashew nut factory you promised in the coast? Where is the value addition centers you promised in 47 counties? Where are the county industrial and aggregation parks you promised? Where is the state-of-the-art slaughterhouse you promised at Bachuma for animals in northern Kenya? Where is the nitrogen fertilizer factory you launched in Naivasha? Where is the marble factory you launched in Vihiga? On value chain investments, he designated a specific capital infusion including 250 billion for tea value chain and expanded investments in dairy farming and coffee cherry funds. Where are these funds? Nowhere. On blue economy and fisheries, funding for fisheries and the blue economy decreased by 30% from Kenya shillings 11.15 billion to Kenya shillings 7.83 billion. Livestock sector allocations of livestock fell by 14% from Kenya shillings 13.6 billion to 11.6 billion. On eradication of hunger and improved food security, the country was promised prosperity by Ruto. Unfortunately, the number of undernourished people in Kenya increased from 10.1 million in 2004-2006 to 19.7 million in 2023-2025. It is more troubling when you look at the costs of a typical household food basket. A food basket is estimated to have risen from Kenya shillings 15,000 in 2022 to over 19,000 shillings today, an increase of more than 26%. Essential commodities such as electricity, chicken, beef, sugar, kerosene, bread, and milk have all become significantly more expensive here in Kenya over the last 4 years. Patriotic Kenyans, 4 years ago, this government promised the people of Kenya dams and water. 50 mega dams across the country were promised. 200 medium-sized dams across the country were promised. 1,000 small dams were to be constructed across the country. These dams included High Grad Force Dam along the Tana and Mutonga rivers to serve Kitui, Tharaka Nithi, and Embu counties. Soin Koru Dam in Kisumu, Rumuruti Dam in Laikipia, Mohoya Dam in Nyeri, Kirinyaga, Revival of Arol and Kimorel Dams, Thakwe Dam, Sioi Muruni Dam in West Pokot, Badasa Dam in Marsabit, Darugo in Kiambu, Rale in Kilifi, Galana in Tana River, Kokwanyo Dam in Homa Bay, Lowati in Turkana, Makamini in Kwale, among others. Unfortunately, all we see, no dam. All we see is our president visiting other countries like Ethiopia to witness the launching of their dams. Where are these dams, Mr. William Ruto, in 4 years? On matters of environment, this administration had committed to grow 15 billion trees by the year 2032. What we are witnessing is the lifting of the logging ban and the systematic logging in national forests under the cover of the Kenya Forest Service. Numerous court cases have been filed by international conservation groups Greenbelt and the Law Society of Kenya against the government's attempt to develop build infrastructure in protected natural habitats. Talanta Stadium and Bomas Conference Center Link Road that will see over 100 acres of forest destroyed. Upper Imenti Forest in Meru is being cleared for the construction of a state lodge, a golf course, and an airstrip, which will exercise and clear 200 acres of forest. Where was this promise? Even the trees at the gate of State House have been cut. Is this still part of the growing 15 billion trees? Patriotic Kenyans, in foreign affairs, we had the worst since independence. Kenya's nose is poked everywhere, including the war in Ukraine and Russia, where our young men are lied to that they are jobs, well-paying for that matter, but they find themselves in the war front. Reports indicate that we have lost 19 Kenyans, including Clinton Nyapara, Dennis Bagaka, Erastus Mundia, Simeon Wahome, Eric Mwangi, Ronald Kibet, Shadrach Wafula, Othiabo Martin, Ibrahim Yahaya, among others. Several other Kenyans in their hundreds remain unaccounted for, and hundreds of others are still active in the war zone. Their parents are keen at home, still crying to see their loved ones back home. A person who was in Kenya in 2022 would wonder whether the Kenya Kwanza commitment to a creative and robust foreign policy whose pillars will be economic and commercial diplomacy changed into converting our young Kenyans into war fugitives in far countries. As if that is not enough, the footprints of Kenya adversary in DRC Congo war zone and M23, Sudan's Darfur, Southern Sudan, among others. He had promised to enhance and promote further local investment by Kenyans living in the diaspora. In Mandera County, Juba land forces have taken over more than half of the town, and the William Ruto signed a secret deal with the Al-Shabaab in 2024 that has remained silent. Notably, in July 2026, there were a record 9 terror attacks in Mandera County that resulted in the killing of 5 Special Operation Group SOG officers and 1 National Police Reservist was killed. The foreign policy has been transformed into a tool to achieve personal gains at the interests of the people of Kenya. Fellow Kenyans, now let us move in and ask Mr. William Ruto the hard questions he deserves. But before that, let me give credit where it is due. There is one promise Mr. William Ruto made to the people of Kenya, and he has delivered 100%. Congratulations, Mr. President. Mr. Ruto, you promised to permanently retire the late Prime Minister, Right Honorable Raila Odinga, in Bondo and finish ODM. You have succeeded in both. Odinga is permanently retired in Bondo and ODM is no more. There are many prominent deaths that have occurred in Kenya and they have not been resolved. Kenyans want to know what happened to Raila Odinga. Why were the medical doctors of the late Prime Minister denied access to him at the last hours? Why did he have doctors from Nairobi West Hospital, a hospital closely associated with William Ruto, than his own doctors? Why were the instructions of Raila's doctor ignored that Raila shouldn't travel? Raila Odinga was a respecter of rural traditions and custom. How could a person known respecter of rural traditions and customs indicate that he should be buried in 72 hours against all known rural traditions and customs? Was William Ruto anywhere an executor of Raila Odinga's will? Why was there no postmortem done on the body of Raila Odinga? Why was he forced to go to India through a private jet? Why did the president force Raila Odinga to go to India? Why was his party ODM taken over before his body arrived in the country, despite the known African customs that you don't inherit a man or a woman, for that matter, before they are buried? Who are these doctors who accompanied Raila Odinga against the wishes of his personal doctor, Professor David Oluoch-Oluonya? These are hard questions that Kenyans want to know. On the death of Honorable John Ngeno, the late MP, for the first time, Kenyans must know what happened. I have intelligence information as follows. On the fateful day after Ngeno was dropped at Edebes, the helicopter went to fuel in Eldoret. The pilot didn't know the fuel he was about to put in had been transported to the scene from Lodwar. High alert Kenya revenue officials noticed an unusual car that had carried the jet fuel. It was arrested and the driver questioned. The driver refuted to them that he transported the fuel from Lodwar. Immediately, this KRA official and the police Eldoret Airstream were instructed from Nairobi to release the driver if they cared about their lives. Is it this fuel that caused the chopper not to pick up in high altitudes? Is that why the pilot first came down and tried again to pick up? These are fundamental questions. What did Kipchumba Murkomen know about the people who called this KRA officer and the police at Eldoret Airstream officials? Can KEA produce the CCTV footage at the facility on this fateful date? We are still waiting for a report on what killed Johanna Ngeno. We must not forget about our gallant General Francis Ogola, the decorated top gun who had a stellar 40-year career in the military and perished in 2024 in an air crash. Unfortunately, to date, Mr. William Ruto, the Commander-in-Chief, has failed to release the aircraft accident investigation report to the country. Kenyans are demanding for answers. General Ogola was not an ordinary citizen. He died in active duty and service to the nation. Mr. William Ruto, what do you know about General Francis Ogola's death? Are you willing to tell the country why you allowed General Francis Ogola to fly in a Bell Hue helicopter with a questionable mechanical status? The DPP must use its powers and establish an inquest on these unresolved murders over the last 4 years. The people of Kenya have told me to demand on their behalf a public inquest on the death of Raila Odinga and all the high-profile questionable deaths in Kenya that have occurred in the last 4 years of William Ruto's presidency. I therefore call for a public inquest and proper scrutiny of the same. Today, after examining major commitment against this evidence, after examining every major commitment against this evidence, the verdict is unmistakable. The plan has failed. It is hollow and deceptive. In conclusion, when the plan failed, Kenyans were told that the answer lay in Article. It too has failed to deliver the hope, unity, and reforms that were promised. Thereafter came the 10-point agenda, presented as a renewed roadmap to rescue the country. It has equally failed to change the trajectory of our nation. In failing the plan, the administration has failed to keep Kenya on the development path envisioned under Kenya Vision 2030. The question before the people of Kenya is therefore simple. If the author of the plan could not deliver the plan, if NADCO has failed to provide solutions, if the 10-point agenda has failed to change the country's direction, what reason do Kenyans have to expect a different outcome after 2027? You have all heard William Ruto constantly accusing the opposition of having no plan. I ask Kenyans instead to look at his track record. He came up with a bottom-up economic plan. As we have seen, it has failed. He came up with NADCO. He has failed to deliver. He came up with a 10-point agenda. He has failed to deliver. He came up with a Singapore. It has failed. And now, before he has honored a single promise and his commitments, he is now asking us to believe and trust him to come up with another plan, Vision 2060, or the way he is calling, Beyond Vision 2030. Plan after plan, promise after promise, each one designed to distract from the fact that there has been no implementation of the last. From bottom up to Singapore, to Vision 2060 or Beyond Vision 2030, William Ruto has mastered the language of plans. Whenever he is asked to account for what he has actually done, because he has no answer, he simply points to the next horizon. The harsh truth is he does not have the capacity to deliver. You cannot fail today and ask us to trust you tomorrow for some distant, far future engagement. Based on your performance, Kenyans don't want to hear about Vision 2030 or Beyond 2030. They want to know one thing. What will you deliver in the 364 days between today and the next election? Of all the promises you have already made, which ones can we expect you to keep? That will be your marking scheme 1 year from today. And Kenyans are doing you a favor. They are letting you set that marking scheme yourself. They are not making their own demands. They are just using your own commitments as the standard. So when the day comes, you should have nothing to complain about. Leadership is judged by results, not by promises. Governments earn another term through performance, not through visions and persuasion. That is why millions of Kenyans are saying one term. One term is not a slogan of anger. It is a verdict on performance. It is a democratic conclusion that one term has been enough because the promises made have not been kept. Exactly 1 year from today, on 10th August 2027, we shall go to the polls as a nation. Let us choose accountability over excuses. delivery over promises, and leadership that honors its covenant with the people. As Mr. William Ruto launches his deceptive 2060 plan tomorrow, I want to tell the people of Kenya that it is a lie, it is a con, it is a fraud, it is deceit. I urge all Kenyans from across the country to join in the liberation struggle that kickstarts his 364-day action plan to restore the dignity of our beloved motherland. As William Ruto launches his lie and deception tomorrow, I lead the people of Kenya in launching today a 364-day action plan to restore the dignity of our beloved motherland, Kenya. May God bless you. May God bless the Republic of Kenya. Thank you.